Hello and welcome to the Discover History YouTube channel, and hopefully you've all had a chance to guess what our Monday mystery is. Now, I set it thinking actually this will be a really difficult one. However, there's a lot of very intelligent people out there who's actually got the answer correct. So the following people have actually got it correct: Craig Wren, Linda Pritchett, and my brother actually, Mark Harding. All three of you have got the correct answer. So let's refresh our memory to what it actually was. So it looks like an unfinished piece of a chainmail shirt, for example. Maybe you've just started with the sleeve or something like that. Now, an interesting fact is if you have a close look at the rings, they are made by literally taking some very thin metal like steel and turning it into a thin wire, and then it's coiled up and cut, and basically the ring is opened and one ring is then attached to four, which is very much like mail is made for armor, and then the rings are closed up. Now, the interesting fact is chain mail, as in mail or mail, which was worn as armor, which actually gets its name from the French word for net, wasn't actually made like that. They weren't made with rings by opening them up, threading them through each other and then closing them up. They were actually made in a very intricate way. And I think I've mentioned this before. So you start with a metal rod, it's spiraled up, then they're cut through, and then the ends are hammered individually. They are then drilled, and then they're closed with a tiny little peg in each one, a rivet. So mail armor, as such, like a mail shirt and mail coif, or even mail legs as such that are worn over padding to protect the legs, that sort of mail, chain mail, is actually made in a different way. So if you were looking at this straight away and you were having a close look at it, you will notice that's not armor, and that's really down to the fact that the rings are literally rings that are opened up and then attached to four, so it's not armor. So the three people that have messaged and also commented correctly, it is actually something you will find in a scullery in the Victorian period. So it's actually a pan scrubber. Now, they do appear in stately homes even today. Some of them are original ones. For example, if you go to places like Hartlebury Castle, you will find them in the scullery there. Sometimes they're actually backed onto a piece of cloth, so they're actually stitched onto a piece of cloth. Other times they are kept exactly like that, and they were used in an age before you get non-stick surfaces on pans, for example. So you've got very hard wearing pans. Most of them are actually literally iron, and they needed a good scrub after being used to cook something that may have actually been in ground or ground into the ironwork. And usually the best thing to do first of all is put water in them, soak them, and then someone in the scullery would take one of these. You can either roll it up, you can scrunch it up, and it's used as an abrasive, and it will remove all the bits of food from inside the pan. What is really important is once you have actually scoured the inside of a pan, and they also used to use things like salt and in some cases sand or even vinegar, eventually you would need to seal the ironwork again, and that was usually done by heating up the pan and then putting oil into it, and that's all you really need to do to prevent rusting, for example, afterwards. So it's actually a pan scrubber. So the three people that I've already mentioned, you've got it correct. So they were used for a very, very long time. I would avoid using them today because most people have stainless steel, for example, or even non-stick, and they will get damaged, or your pots will get damaged if you use it. And if you have a look at some books, for example, Household Management by the National Trust, even if you have a look at Mrs. Beeton and other household management books from the Victorian era, you will find them in there. Another good book is The Country House Servant, and there are illustrations of them in there. And what you have to remember in some of the big houses, because really your average person wouldn't be scouring a pot on a regular basis. Most of the time the pot is always full and they just top it up with the stews and the broths that they were eating. But if you live in a big house, then you would have something like a scullery, and you would have special sinks that are specifically used for certain things. They even used to have lead lined sinks or wood lined sinks that were used for bone china so they didn't break. But it's a whole process of boiling water. It's a process of scouring with these type of things, and then using the oils and things like that to preserve them and look after them. If you've got copper pans and things like that, they really need looking after, because if you get a green layer forming on them, it actually becomes poisonous. So there was a lot of polishing and a lot of scrubbing, and a lot of that took place inside the scullery. Now, I did mention you can still get these if you do go on Google or something like that and look up Victorian pan scrubber or chainmail pan scrubber. You will see them there, because famously some chefs today do actually have iron pans because they sometimes prefer those. They're traditional, and some people say you get a better flavour from ironwork that have been lined with oil at some point. They use them as well, so you can still get them. This one is an old one. As you can see, there's a bit of rust on there, and that's purely because it's not used that regularly. If it was being used regularly, just like chainmail shirts that Roman soldiers wore, medieval knights wore, when mail rubs against mail, it naturally cleans it. Obviously this don't get that much use, so it's started to get rust on. But like I said, the best way of identifying it is looking at the way the rings are made. They're not hammered flat, they're not got rivets in. That's not a piece of chainmail. It is literally a Victorian pan scrubber. So well done for everyone that got that right. Look out for another Monday mystery, which will be taking place, strangely, next Monday. I'll try and find a more difficult one for you. But make sure you subscribe, and therefore you won't miss a video, and make sure you comment either on here, on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. On that note, stay safe, stay in, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.